The Affordable Care Act, ACA, often referred to as Obamacare, is one of the most significant pieces of healthcare legislation in American history. Signed into law by President Barack Obama in March 2010, the ACA aimed to transform the nation's healthcare system.
I had stage 4 cancer.
I'm so sorry.
I want to ask to make sure that you're going to promise to not ever vote against the Affordable Care Act because people's lives like mine depend on it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Do you have a specific bill you're concerned about?
Well, I'm concerned that they're talking again about cuts to the Affordable Care Act.
Okay.
If there's another repeal vote, how would you vote?
Yeah. So I haven't heard anything about another repeal vote. Do you know a bill number?
I believe that President Trump was saying that he wants to repeal the Affordable Care Act.
Okay.
So is that something you would
he's not
support?
the president right now. We're looking at every bill as it comes forward. I'm not on that committee, but one of the things we've doubled down on is making sure cancer survivors like my mother also have access to it. So we're very committed to it. I think you'll see that in our voting record. And also ask you, come join us in our office so we can talk through the legislation together.
And you promise not to cut the Affordable Care Act and take away health insurance from people like me?
Yeah. Did you hear what I just said? Yeah. Thank you.
Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we are diving into a surprising revelation that's been trending. Many MAGA supporters didn't realize that Obamacare and Affordable Care Act are the same. Join us as we unpack the mix-up and explore what it means for the ongoing healthcare debates. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video.
Good evening, everybody. I'm coming on tonight to congratulate all the supporters of Donald Trump and Donald Trump himself for pulling off what appears to be an amazing victory. I obviously was a supporter of Ms. Harris, and she lost. And what's the most refreshing thing is that unlike what Donald Trump did 4 years ago, and what his supporters said they would do again if he did not win this election, which means not congratulate the other side, Ms. Harris congratulated Mr. Trump and clearly said that he won. And that's how democracy works. A couple things. One of the things Donald Trump said he's going to do is eliminate Obamacare. Do you know the states that benefit the most from Obamacare? The southern states, all of that voted for Donald Trump. I just think that's important. Let's see what happens.
Oh my God, I'm so happy Trump's administration is finally gonna kill Obamacare.
Yeah, but it really sucks that so many people are gonna lose coverage from the Affordable Care Act.
What are you talking about? No one has threatened to do anything with the ACA. It's all about Obamacare. The ACA is the same thing as Obamacare. What? The ACA is the same thing as Obamacare. What? No, it can't be. Yep, surprise. They're the exact same thing. And Republicans have just pushed the name Obamacare to make it more polarizing. But if the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, is repealed, millions of Americans are going to be losing access to affordable health care.
I don't use headphones. I use the headband of speakers for my ears. This is not canned food. This is an aluminum cylinder that holds edible ingredients. I don't want bathroom tissue. I want toilet paper. I don't want a spoon. I want a curved utensil for scooping.
This post has blown up on the Bird app because a lot of people don't realize that the Affordable Care Act is the reason that a lot of young people can stay on their parents' health insurance until they're 26 years old. And if you didn't know, as of March 23rd, the Affordable Care Act was passed 14 years ago in 2010. And as a health economist, I'm here to tell you why the Affordable Care Act is one of the most monumental pieces of healthcare legislation over the last 50 years. It did a lot. In fact, from 2010 to 2016, the number of uninsured people was cut in half. 20 to 24 million more Americans now have health insurance because of the Affordable Care Act. A lot of this increase in coverage had to do with something called Medicaid expansion. In 2014, the federal government offered to increase its contribution of federal match rates if states offered to cover people who made up to 138% of the poverty. As of December 2023, 41 states and the District of Columbia have expanded Medicaid coverage. There have been upwards of 600 economic and public health studies looking at the impacts of those states that expanded Medicaid versus those that didn't. Have come to a consensus that Medicaid expansion has improved health insurance coverage, increased the number of visits, improved health outcomes, and improved the affordability of healthcare services across the board. It's been instrumentally effective. The Affordable Care Act also prevented insurers from denying coverage with those with pre-existing conditions. Essentially, why health insurance companies did this is because people with pre-existing conditions are more expensive to cover because they need additional healthcare services. The definition of a pre-existing condition is pretty large. Things like anxiety and depression were considered pre-existing conditions. Health insurance providers could deny you coverage because of those diagnoses. The Affordable Care Act also mandated that all insurance companies must provide essential health benefits as well as preventative care and screenings for women. This has changed because of certain Supreme Court cases, but in general, things like birth control and pap smears, those are all covered by the Affordable Care Act. Insurance must cover these essential health benefits in some way. Before the Affordable Care Act, they were not mandated to do so. The bill also established the Affordable Care Act exchanges, which provided affordable self-coverage. The provisions of this bill have also been changed because of Supreme Court cases, which I'm happy to talk about. And also, this bill isn't perfect. There's actually a lot of things this bill was supposed to do, but because of senators like Joe Lieberman, it did not happen. All things considered, the Affordable Care Act has been an instrumental first step in greatly expanding healthcare coverage. If you have any questions, let me know.
You know, many people refer to Obamacare as insurance, but it is important to understand that the Affordable Care Act, ACA, or Obamacare is not actually an insurance policy. Rather, it's just a federal law that regulates the health insurance industry and makes health insurance more affordable and accessible for Americans. So under the ACA, health insurance companies are required to offer essential health benefits such as coverage for preventive care, prescription drugs, and maternity care. The law also prohibits insurance companies from denying coverage to individuals with pre-existing conditions. In addition, the ACA established health insurance marketplaces where individuals and small businesses can purchase health insurance plans at affordable rates. So while the ACA is not an insurance policy itself, it has a significant impact on the insurance industry and has helped to make health insurance more accessible and affordable for millions of Americans.
Real quick, my team, I'm going to try to explain this delicately because we have brains, so this is going to be extremely hard to get. Imagine taking an open book exam and still failing it. No, because this is for you. Imagine taking an open book exam and still failing it. Now imagine you had years to study for said exam and yet you still failed it. Imagine that for a second.
No, but I do think we need to have a serious conversation about this whole Obamacare bad but Affordable Care Act good thing. Instead of mocking the people who think that, let's talk about what it actually shows us, because I think that's important and it's going to be so important moving forward for the next 4 years. The right wing is and has always been excellent with their marketing. They have drilled it into people that Obamacare is bad, that anything associated with Obama is bad. But it works. People say they hate Obamacare, but then you've got all these individuals saying, oh, but I hope they don't take away my Affordable Care Act. And we've known this for quite some time now, actually, because they've done, surveys and studies that show when you ask, how do you feel about Obamacare, people respond negatively. But when you break it down and ask people how they feel about the individual components of the Affordable Care Act, there's like a 70 or 80% approval. And we see the same thing in Florida, too. What was it, only 2 years ago, where Florida passed a higher minimum wage, but voted for all Republicans. And we saw it again this year too. Florida, it didn't pass, but 57% of people voted in favor of keeping abortion access. In Florida, that's crazy. And again, it didn't pass because the Republicans who are in charge know that something like that is actually pretty favorable, so they set the bar at 60%, not just 50% the majority like almost every other state. And I'm just begging the Democratic establishment to recognize that they think their problem is that they're not center enough. They need to go more moderate, more centrist. But their actual problem is that they're just really bad at marketing. They are out of touch with the general population. And quite honestly, a lot of you are out of touch too. Like, let's stop grammar shaming people that voted for Trump and then being shocked when the right wing has it out for the left. Like, nobody cares how you're spelling there. You know what they're trying to say. But anyway, I just really hope that the Democratic establishment recognizes people want progressive ideas. It just needs to be palatable to the general population. We need to do a better job of making the information digestible. Like, maybe instead of spending the next 4 years finding the most moderate, basic white man you can, invest in like a PR firm. What's Molly McPherson doing for the next 4 years? And I understand that we are all upset and frustrated and anxious and scared about what the next 4 years are going to look like. I am too. But shaming people isn't going to help the situation. That's not going to bring them into the fold. It's just going to exile them from us even more. For anyone that's been paying attention seriously, it feels very much like Republicans have been playing chess for the last 40 years and Democrats are like just now opening up a checkers box. And I don't know, maybe the best use of our time over the next 4 years is to learn how to play chess.
Why were y'all okay with the Affordable Care Act, but you just strongly disliked Obamacare? But they're the exact same thing. So what is it about the Obamacare that you don't like, that you're okay with it being called Affordable Care Act? Like, what's the difference? There's got to be a reason why you guys don't like Obamacare, but the equivalent is Affordable Care Act, and you guys are okay with that. Like, let me know.
Let's talk the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare. Now, Trump lately has been running around saying that he doesn't want to repeal the Affordable Care Act, but throughout his first term, he did everything he could to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Honestly, I don't think he understands that the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare are the same thing, and that's why he's saying that he has never gone after the Affordable Care Act, because in his little twiddle mind, he thinks he's just going after Obamacare and doesn't understand it's the same thing. But Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, has said numerous times on the past week that the Affordable Care Act is on the chopping block. They're saying they're going to fix it and reform it, but they want to repeal it. They've always wanted to repeal it, and they don't have a plan to replace it. Trump said in the debate, he has a concept of the plan. You know what? A concept of the plan does not provide health insurance for my son who is a type 1 diabetic, which is a pre-existing condition. It doesn't provide health care for someone like me who had a triple bypass after my heart attack, who now has a pre-existing condition. They are coming after your health care. Make no mistakes. Kamala Harris will protect it.
The ACA, the Affordable Care Act, I worked on that law. I'm very proud of what we did in 2010 to get that law across the board, including with some Republican support. What I will see happening now are still a slate of bills. It can't be It cannot be undone by a White House pen. I just want to make that clear. You can take away parts of the Affordable Care Act and weaken them. You cannot dismantle the ACA just by a regulatory White House signature. So you do need to work with Congress. And the key piece here that could not happen during the first Trump administration is repeal the ACA and replace with what? So could they become smarter in 4 years and find something to replace it with? It's absolutely possible, but it's going to be an uphill battle because some of the very entities that Trump is very positive around, American-based companies, Alex, those companies started because of the Affordable Care Act. So you're talking about ripping away jobs. You're talking about ripping away access to the many voters that he claims are in his loyal voter base. So it's complicated. I think he can weaken parts of it. Can't take it all away.
Okay. A trending search in Google today. Today's what? November 13th. How many days after the election is that? That's 8 days. And we're now seeing these questions being asked on Google. Are Obamacare and ACA the same thing? Is Obamacare and ACA the same thing? Really? Are we really asking this question now, after the election? Yes, my friends, Obamacare is the ACA. They named it Obamacare back in the day because they figured it would have a bad connotation because the Republicans were against it. So they termed it as Obamacare so that all of the followers would hate it because it was named after Obama. But it was actually called the Affordable Care Act. So over the years, it became more known as its actual name, the Affordable Care Act. The health care plan that so many millions of Americans rely on, even Republican Americans. They don't realize until after the election that it's the same thing. We're seeing a lot of leopards eating faces, and it's only hasn't even been 2 weeks yet. Good luck the next 4 years.
If Obamacare goes away, I do think we'll see a renaissance of sketchy, out-of-pocket doctors who'll give you whatever you want. So, upside?
You know, it's kind of astonishing how in the year of our Lord 2024, going on to 2025 now, there are people walking around today, U.S. citizens, who do not know that the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare are one and the same. What's worse is that they are actively taking part in and benefiting from the Affordable Care Act and then trashing Obamacare every chance they get, simply because that man's name is attached to it. You see, you can't underestimate stupid. It always finds a way. Now, I could understand if this confusion was happening when, the Affordable Care Act was first introduced, right? But we coming up on at least 10 years. I think it's been 10 years, in fact, right? And there are still people, most of them in the MAGA mob, who don't know that my man Barry, the 44th president, got them affordable health care. I've been on Obamacare before. It's great. It's great. Cheapest health insurance I ever got. And they actively trashing it because there's nothing but air up here. It's crazy. I'll never forget. I used to work at the Best Buy in the Geek Squad. I was a computer technician. And I had this one coworker, white shorty. She was kind of fat, not gonna lie. Anyway, she was from Maine. Super awkward, introverted, nerdy little white girl, bro. And this was around the time where Trump was either campaigning or he was already in office, right? And me and her, we never had no problem. She was sweet, no issues whatsoever, right? But then, she's from Maine, and I was like, you probably one of them ones, bro. Like, I'm gonna be careful around you. And sure enough, I just happened to be talking about how I had to get on Obamacare because I turned 26. I had to get off my mom's insurance. And she was just like, good for you, but it really sucks that, taxpayers are being forced to da-da-da-da. The usual dribble, talking about how, taxpayers got to pay for that and whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. And then I just so happened to ask her, like, what are you on? She's like, oh, I'm on ACA. I just looked at her like she was stupid. And then she's like, what? I'm like, you do know the Affordable Care Act is Obamacare. She's like, no, it's not. I'm like, yes, it is. She's just like, no, they're different. And I was just looking at her like, this bitch fucking stupid. Ultimately, I let it go because it's not my job to challenge stupid where it stands. You just got to let somebody else handle that. But it just goes to show that some people just no brains up here.
Thanks for tuning in. As we've seen, the confusion between Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act highlights the complexities of our health system and the importance of staying informed. Whether you are a MAGA supporter or not, understanding the policies is crucial for making informed decisions. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insight and updates. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged.